Howdy. Sometimes it's difficult to start somewhere because there are so many things tying into one theme topic, which is everything, except politics. We are at the Velikovsky Encyclopedia. Velikovsky proposes, Immanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, Facing Many Problems, 1950. I have endeavored to show that two series of cosmic catastrophes took place in historical times 34 and 26 centuries ago, and thus, only a short time ago, not peace but war reigned in the solar system. We maintain also that one planet, Venus, was formerly a comet, that it joined the family of planets within the memory of mankind. We conjecture that the comet Venus originated in the planet Jupiter. From the fact that Venus was once a comet, we learn that comets are not nearly immaterial bodies. We claim that the Earth's orbit changed more than once, and with it the length of the year. That the geographical position of the terrestrial axis and its astronomical direction changed repeatedly. The polar regions shifted. The polar ice became displaced into moderate latitudes, and other regions moved into the polar circles. Electrical discharges took place between Venus, Mars, and Earth when, in very close contacts, their atmospheres touched each other. That the magnetic poles of the Earth became reversed only a few thousand years ago. Let's just take this in order to go on to the next theme. Electrical discharges took place between Venus, Mars, and Earth. Science alert! Electrical pulses that trigger Venus flytrap mapped for the first time. I thought that's really funny. That we have once again electricity and Venus, this time in the form of a plant. Venus flytraps, Dionea muscipula, are some of the most ferocious plants on Earth. These carnivorous plants appear most fearsome in the moments before they pounce, when they are poisoned to ensnare their prey. Fangs agape, the Venus flytrap waits until an insect or spider tickles one of its sensory hairs. Once, twice, then the plant strikes, snapping shut to devour the intruder. Now, the electrical signals triggering that deadly move have been mapped in Venus flytraps for the first time by a team of researchers led by bioelectronics researchers Eleni Stavrinodou of Linköping's University in Sweden. So far, these signals have been resolved with single electrodes that cannot give precise information on how the signals propagate or where they originate. Stavrinodou tells Science Alert. Just a few years ago, plant scientists figured out that two successive brushes of the flytrap sensory hairs trigger a surge of charged calcium ions inside the plant's leaves before they snap shut. But those studies only resolved plant cell signaling in broad strokes. Our study is the first to map these signals across the leaves of Venus flytraps, Stavrinodou says, but more studies are required to fully understand their propagation. Like in human cells, an influx of calcium ions creates an actual potential that spreads along and between the cell plants. Like in human cells. Now we have plants, we have humans and planets, which create action potential. But anyway, Although plants have no nervous system, these quick bursts of electricity activity are eerily similar to the electrical impulses of our nerve cells firing. Yeah. Get a grip of that. Along with the calcium ions, potassium and chlorine ions rush into the plant cells via ion channels, creating a momentary charge imbalance that travels along cells, creating an electrical signal. To measure and map these signals in the muscipula, the researchers developed a flexible thin film sensor threaded with electrodes that could wrap around the plant's outstretched lobes. They poked the plant's sensory hairs and filmed its movements, all while recording the electrical impulses generated. The recordings reveal how electrical signals in venous flytraps radiate out at a constant speed from tripped sensory hairs, triggering the trap to close if hairs were touched twice within about 30 seconds. In other words, there has to be a certain awareness of the plant for time. The plant might perceive time totally different than we do, but it has something like that, which might be originating in the geometry of potassium, of the atom potassium, or something else like that. Or even silica, who knows? If hairs were prodded more than 1 minute apart, the second signal moved faster than the first, as if the plant was still on guard. Unexpectedly, though, the team found some electrical signals spontaneously originated from unstimulated hairs as the trap was closing. This is very interesting, Stavrinodou says, but we don't know yet why this happens or what the function is. It's well known that plants send electrical signals when wounded by leaf-munching herbivores or attacked at the roots, and can even respond to light touch. Stavrinodou and colleagues similarly recorded electrical signals emanating from wounded tissues, not just sensory hairs. Wounded? But further studies using the newly fashioned devices will be needed to figure out what message the flytrap unstimulated sensory hairs are sending and how electrical signals propagate in plants. In animals, nerve cells, we are animals, by the way. In animals, nerve cells converge at synapses junctions where chemicals called neurotransmitters carry the signal across the gap and onto the next cell. There's a gap, there's a spark. I made once a video about the rusty brain or something like that. Maybe someone finds that. It's about exactly this thing. But anyway, the mechanisms a plant might use to propagate its electrical signal from cell to cell and from roof to tip are still as yet unknown. Yeah, I think I made even a video about pondering that there are some plants, they don't get really wet because the water is in a way, the water gets repelled by the plant's surface. Like if you watch the leaves, there are those water drops because there are those really, really thin hairs which keeps the water in a drop so that the plant doesn't get enveloped in water. Because I think it has to do with the electromagnetic potential of the ground and of the plant's size. Because if it couldn't maintain its own electromagnetic circuitry, which also includes some kind of an aura, it probably couldn't do the things it needs to do in order to survive. In other words, it couldn't suck up the water, or the water doesn't get pulled up through the plant. If it would be enveloped in water, the electromagnetic potential probably would dissolve the plant's or overcome the plant's own electromagnetic potential in order to do so. The aura of the plant would get destroyed or disturbed. But anyway, given how fly trap signals fan out from a hair at a constant speed, the researchers think it's unlikely the signals are traveling via the plant nutrient transport tissue called phloem, as previously suggested. Electrical signals are mediators of long-distance signaling in plants, and they are also related to plant stress responses. SAFIRE tells Science Alert, by recording these signals in plants, we will be able to understand better how plants function. Yeah, like what I just tried to explain very sketchily and very briefly about those plants which have this kind of repellent surfaces. Like trees and many other big plants, they don't have this because they don't need it, because they are just the height which they gain. Like a tree can be like many meters high, 40, 50, or even 120 or something. They are overcoming the electromagnetic potential which is on the ground, so they can gather air energy from the air, from the height. As higher it goes, the more energy potential is in the air. Which actually brings us to the next theme, which is, who would have guessed, why do clouds float? Do the clusters of water and ice particles that make up clouds really float in the sky? Published 3 days ago. Look up at the sky and clouds may look like feather canyons and ice cream castles in the air, as they did to Joni Mitchell, whoever that is. But why do they look as if they're suspended in mid-air? And are they actually floating? And if so, what keeps them aloft? It's sort of an illusion. Alex Lamers, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, told Life Science. It's not like there's a pillow or something that's magically floating in air. A cloud is a collection of water droplets and ice crystals. These droplets form around a cloud condensation nucleus, which could be a speck of dust or salt, Lammers explained. When a water-laden cloud grows too heavy, precipitation falls as rain, snow or hail. But even before rainfall, these droplets make their way toward Earth, albeit at a leisurely pace. They're falling very, very, very slowly, Lammers said. Anything falling to Earth reaches what's known as terminal velocity, or its fastest possible speed, as it falls freely. Terminal velocity occurs when drag force from the air perfectly counters gravity. The water droplets are so light that their terminal velocity is super slow, between 60 and 120 feet per hour, 18 to 36 meters per hour, for a droplet with a 5 to 10 micron radius. Because clouds are usually thousands of feet high in the atmosphere, this small downward shift isn't noticeable to the eye. Lamers likened water droplets fall to dust motes swirling in a shaft of sunlight. The motes also fall, but because they are minuscule, they fall slowly. The average size of a cloud water droplet is smaller than the radius of human hair, according to Mike Miller, a professor of atmospheric science at Rutgers University. But something counteracts that slow descent, which is where the illusion comes in. Updrafts of rising air keep the coalescent droplets suspended, even as they gradually fall. So, are they falling or not? They appear to float because essentially they are falling at a rate slower than or equal to the updraft velocity in the cloud. So they are not falling. Miller told Life Science the particles fall and rise at the same time. Yeah. It's a professor saying this. A professor tells you that the particles fall and rise at the same time. Does this make sense to you? I don't know. Ask yourself. And like I said, that's 3 days old or something. Water droplets become tracers of air motion, Miller said. That is, the rising air notches millions of droplets into the shape of its path, forming the visible cloud. But it's not just this simultaneous falling and rising at play. While clouds appear at a relatively fixed height, they fluctuate as rising air mingles with droplets as they condense and evaporate. They're actually forming and evaporating at a rate that makes them seem a bit stationary, Miller said. A cloud is the visible result of a vertical motion and air mixing with water while the droplets fall slowly to the ground. You don't really see the cloud droplet motion at all, Miller said. All you really see is the tracer of the large-scale motion in the atmosphere. Cloud formation requires warm, moist air. Warm air is more buoyant than cold air, so it rises into the atmosphere and then condenses into a cloud as it cools. Now, if you follow that step, then you should somehow expect that it just immediately would fall down again. The cloud is less dense than the air below it. While some clouds look light and fluffy, a cumulus or a thunderstorm cloud can weigh about as much as 100 elephants. Yeah, that's funny that they bring again the elephants. How many people in the world have seen elephants like live? Like, standing beside an elephant? Not too many. And this same comparison to elephants is also very often used in Finland, for example. And there's no elephants. I don't think there's even in the zoo elephants. So many Finnish people never have seen an elephant. But anyway, I have seen elephants, like in zoos. Unfortunately, I really would like to see them once live. Talk to one. This would be an interesting thing to do. Though its mass and water content depend on its dimensions. In a smaller cloud, only a few tens of meters tall and wide that won't imminently precipitate. That weight doesn't always translate to much water. If I took all the water out of that cloud, it would probably not even fill a gallon jug, Miller said. So, let me show you something from the SAFIRE project. No, actually, I want to show you something else first. Yeah, I think it's this page where I found the picture, or the picture I used. Exploring the environment, global climate change, NASA. This project is no longer funded and will not be updated. It doesn't matter. Layers of the Earth's atmosphere. Exosphere, exobase, thermosphere, mesopause, mesosphere, stratopause, stratosphere, tropopause, troposphere. And you're somewhere here, And if you think about 85 kilometers from the surface is the lower end of the Aurora Borealis or Australis. 85 kilometers, maybe, I don't know, 60 miles or something. Yeah, maybe your neighboring town is closer than 65 miles. So it's not too far after all. But anyway, we have this picture here. which doesn't really fit into the screen. But you get the idea. We have different layers of our atmosphere where different things are going on. So now to the SAFIRE project. If you haven't seen anything or haven't heard anything about the SAFIRE project, I really recommend you to do so. Start maybe with this video or something, or pick another one. Now let's just have a quick look into that.
And really what we determine through design of experiments is these various regimes that the plasma goes through. So we're already kind of dialing in the anode, even in a small bell jar, so logic would assume we could do that when we scale up as well. And actually it does when you use the right approach, when you use designs of experiments. So we're really happy with our various regimes. This is a snapshot of, I would say, the main regimes we work with. That's not to say that there aren't others in between there. So I'll just go through here a little bit and show you close up. I call this a dark quiescent phase. This is right on the edge. Very small changes here. This is not stable. Right up, very small changes in either voltage or current can lead to this extinguishing. But there is still a plasma layer around the edge of the anode. Now, as we increase our current, we obtain what we call tufts. These are anode tufts. These have been experimentally seen before, but we can now control them. We control the number, the concentration in a square area, and they're always equidistant from each other. Okay? As you increase the energy and as you increase the current in the system, they start to grow in size and also squeeze together until you reach a point where they actually start to coalesce. And this is what we refer to as moving tufts. Right? This can also be adjusted in terms of pressure and current. So as these things start to move, they actually spin more. And eventually what comes into being is this double layer phase. Multiple double layers that are controlled by current and gas pressure.
So, multiple double layers controlled by current and gas pressure. So I made a very sketchy picture where we have the picture from NASA, the Earth's atmospheric layers, and the SAFIRE project. And I see many similarities in these. So this might maybe the explanation for how or why the clouds stay up in the sky and just don't drop down. Because there are different charge densities and double layers in between them, and there is energy going from the Earth upwards and energy coming in from the sun mainly. And maybe the auras of humans, they have also different layers. I don't know. I think so. But we won't dive into that now. So let me show you some pictures I took today from the sky. So this was the first I took. It doesn't look like much, but I noticed that there is this thing rising up towards that cloud here, which by itself looks already rather interesting. It has layers, and it floats in the sky. That's the same picture. I made a GIF, which was a very big work for me. I tried to zoom in at the almost exact same rate as I did in the previous one. This is one of the pictures I used for the GIF, because now in this configuration on my phone they are like mixed together. Let's just increase some contrast and stuff. I haven't done this yet, so let's see if we get anything out here. Maybe contrast wasn't too... I don't know. Yeah, sometimes you just have to play around and figure out what's the best, where you can see the most. Yeah, maybe less contrast like this. Highlights? No, let's go to sharpness. Where is it? Here. No, I don't know. No, let's go with this. Yeah, already 25 minutes. Yeah, there's many interesting features in that. So let's go over to the GIF, because like this it doesn't make any point to watch. But there's stuff going on beneath the cloud, obviously. And it formed even an arc. Yes, it did. Check it out. A cloud arc on top of this other cloud, beneath the other cloud. Almost like watching the sun when a CME gets released. Yeah, that's an interesting picture. So now let's check out the GIF, and then you're free to go. We can zoom in, check it out. And there's the arc rising. Then it dissipates. That's the first picture, I guess. It's a bit hard to say where it starts. I don't know if I can increase the speed of that. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a computer person. That's already a big achievement to make a GIF like this from a technical aspect. Yeah, a cloud arc. But anyway, this turned out to be a very long video. Sorry for that. And thank you. And I really appreciate if you send me whatever things which could relate. Usually they relate to stuff what I have been talking about. Like today someone sent me a very interesting video about the groundwater and the Bible and stuff like that. It's amazing. I really appreciate, but I didn't have time to make also a video about this. There would be 1,000 things I could make videos about. At the moment I'm writing once again, making part 2 of an earlier paper, and it's going to be a rather long one, obviously. I try to get it done as quick as possible, and it's very interesting to do. It includes mythology, it includes microwaving stones, a skirt made of fire, blue stockings, crimson red shoes, and stuff like that. Geology and history and all kinds of things. But anyway, this was just some, I just made a video about stuff. Yeah, a cloud arc. How nice. Thanks.